Hi guys, this is Rusty78609 live and in color from my home base in my Jayco J-Flight 26-foot travel trailer in Central Texas, USA at 9:07 a.m. June the 28th, 2017. And I got that out in one breath. I'm out now. But anyway, having said that, what I wanted to touch on this morning for those of you that RV or planning on RVing is just some thoughts that I've had recently. I've gone through uh, I've pulled a travel trailer for over 20 years. I full-time RV'd for 25. I've lived in an RV for 25 or 26 years now. I've went camping in a Toyota Prius off and on for 5 years. Stayed in it for a month at a time, a few weeks at a time, and a month at a time, several times. So anyway, I've tried camping in a Prius. I also have right now. I live in a travel trailer, of course, at my home base in Central Texas, and but I also have a pickup, a Ram pickup 2017 regular cab short bed with a camper top on it. It's a Lear 180 camper top, and I just got back from a 5-week trip in it. And so I've had some experience in different types of camping. And what I wanted to touch on this morning is for people that are just beginning their camping experience or fixing to buy an RV or whatever, if they're fixing to retire or they're going to sell their home and go full-time or whatever. I just want to give you a few cautions or tips in that, particularly for you millennials, the younger group, and let me just expand on that just a second. When I was young, which I'm age 71 now, and so when I was young, there were dinosaurs on the planet. We had cars with rock wheels. No, I'm kidding, but no, I mean, it was totally different. It might as well have been like that because I grew up on a farm, and we learned at an early age how to work with tools, you know what I mean, hand tools, wrenches and all that kind of stuff, and pliers and screwdrivers and all that. And so we knew, we developed all those skills of having how to work on things that are mechanical, okay? And for those of you now, the millennials in that age group, maybe a little older too, you didn't probably develop some of those mechanical skills or how to work on equipment, change the oil and tighten this and tighten that and do that. You just didn't do that, and there's nothing wrong with that because your tools were and are now computers and laptops and all that stuff. And we didn't have those. Everything we had was mechanical. You had to take it apart to work on it and all that kind of stuff, and we did. So now that you're transitioning, you're getting older, and you're going to go get you an RV to go travel in the USA or wherever you're going to go, that's a piece of equipment, okay? And certain parts of it have to be maintained. Most of it is maintenance free, fortunately. But if you're going to get a travel trailer, what I would suggest is take you a few tools, screwdriver, pliers, the basic stuff, and just have that available because every now and then fittings, there's fittings for your water hoses, where they come together and stuff, and sometimes those can come loose if you're pulling a travel trailer, or they get loosened. Particularly if you buy a new unit, after a little while you may notice some little water leaks here and there, or maybe something's not just right and you need to tighten a screw here and there. You can do that all yourself, and also you can replace components in an RV yourself. Now, I don't think you ought to try the refrigerator or the roof AC. But as far as replacing the toilet or replacing the little 12-volt water pump, replacing the propane tank, you can do all that stuff. That's pretty simple stuff. And as far as fixing some of the things that will come loose on the awning, you can do that. And so, but whenever you buy, it doesn't matter if it's new or used, but whenever you buy an RV, and it really doesn't matter if it's a fifth wheel, travel trailer, a regular bumper pull, or a Class A, B, C, or whatever. They're all going to have little minor issues that come up every now and then, particularly if you're using them a lot. If you're driving, several thousand miles a month, see, in the western USA, then more than likely you're going to have some times where you're going to have to tighten something or do something. And here's another suggestion for you, and I still do it. Every day, every morning, when I'm at my home base, when I get up to go, I go walking every day for exercise. I do my stretches, and then what I do, I go walk all the way around the RV, and what am I looking for? I'm looking for like water leaks primarily. I'm looking for water leaks. And I'm sniffing sometimes the air if the wind's not blowing, because if there's a gas leak, propane, you can smell it. and you don't want that one. The water leak you can deal with, but the propane, you don't want it leaking inside the RV because you could light your stove and end up in El Paso, and you live in Brownsville, Texas, or anyway, boop. So, again, you do need some mechanical skills to enjoy full-time RVing. Just some basic stuff. Now, of course, if it's under warranty, and here's something I'll mention. I've mentioned it in other videos. I'll mention it again, particularly for you people that are new to this. Whenever you buy an RV, there's not just one warranty. The dealer you're buying it from doesn't warrant anything. Nothing. They may have a service department, but all they do is the service work from the people that supply the components for the RV, like the refrigerator, the furnace, the air conditioner, possibly the television, the entertainment system, maybe the awning has come from somewhere else. So all of those are just components, and they all have their individual warranty. That's why when you leave the dealership, you're going to have a whole bag of brochures and stuff and warranties, and that covers everything that's inside that RV. So the dealership really doesn't warrant anything. They just happen to have a service department where you can bring it to get it repaired at no charge if it's under the warranty period. Now, if you buy a used unit that's less than, I think, 7 or 8 years old, you can get what's called an extended warranty. And, those you just have to be sure that the extended warranty company that you're dealing with is reputable, and that's pretty easy to find out on Google. Just do a Google search and check the ratings, and actually maybe call the company and compare some stuff, see what their rates are and so forth. But I had an extended warranty on one RV, and it worked okay for me because the air conditioner had to be replaced after I had it a couple of years. And then finally, at the end of 3 years, the refrigerator had to be replaced, and those are expensive items. I think the cost for the roof AC, the stuff they did, was around $800, which is to me a lot of money. The refrigerator was over $1,000. So those components, those are two biggies right there. And so again, whenever you're looking at what type of unit you're going to buy, you can get dizzy. Right now I'm looking at a Class B, a Road Trek. It's called a Road Trek Simplicity, and but there's all kinds of Class Bs. Winnebago's got a 59G and a 59K, and others have different models, and so you could spend your life researching and die before you took your first trip in your RV. But narrow the search down. First of all, what type of vehicle do you have, and do you want to tow a travel trailer? I did it for a long time. I don't want to do it anymore because towing a travel trailer, as I've gotten older, when I was younger it didn't matter, but now that I've gotten older, I really don't want to fool with putting the jacks, or doing the jacks and all that stuff, and hooking it up and unhooking. I just don't want to fool with any of that, so I'm simplifying it, and that's why, of course, I got the pickup with the camper top on it, and it's not a slide-in. It's just the little fiberglass thing that fits on the bed. It's not the slide-in camper, and I don't want one of those because I have a half-ton pickup, and those things are heavy, and I just don't want one. Let's put it that way. I looked at them, and they're okay, but again, that's another choice. If you have a big truck, say a 3/4 ton dually, with dual wheels, then yeah, you could do a small slide-in camper top. But let me tell you something else about camper tops. There's more to it than just buying the camper top. Let's just say the camper top is $20,000, which some of them are, and more. Then you're looking at another $2,000 for the stuff to install it and get it all tied down and hooked up and all that stuff. And if you do get one, they have the ones with the manual little jacks to raise it up so you can drive your truck out from under it. And then they have the ones with the electric jacks where you can push a little button or whatever, and it goes up by it automatically under 110 power. And I would get the electric. I promise you that. Yeah, because see, you're going to have to go from one jack to the other to kind of wiggle it on up and to get it done right. But anyway, back to the full-time RVing. Now, if that's something you choose to do, and I've done it for a long time, then just be aware that again, I've said this in a lot of videos. All that glitters isn't gold. It's not like the whole world out there is waiting for you, and they have the perfect campsite with no insects and the perfect temperature, and the people close to you are always mannerly. No, that's not the way it works at all. You know, most of the places you go, there are insects. And the worst one is no-see-ums. You'll find out what that is if you don't know. You'll find out. Yeah, it's a little bitty one. It'll get you. And but they're seasonal, is what I'm told. And of course, I've been at this for 25 plus years, and you know, I try to avoid those. Mosquitoes, I don't like those either. Biting flies, I don't like those either. But you know, whenever you go out there, nature welcomes you, because when you pull up, you are the Walmart pulling in. They want everything you've got, and they'll figure out a way to get it. Okay, even if it's part of you. And but you know, dealing with, so you got to deal with insects, and you got to deal with, if you're going to RV park to RV park to RV park, most of the people in RV parks are very well mannered, you know. But again, what's happened is that the RV parks have gotten a little greedy. Some of them, not all of them, and you know, the spaces are really small now. It used to be, you know, you'd pull in and you had a pretty good spot, so to speak. But now, you know, you may not, if you back in, you may not be able to open your door. Okay, so they just really cram them in there because it's all about making money, and that's the way that is. But if you go, and then you have to understand some jargon, you know, like boondocking and dispersed camping are two that are going to come up. You know, boondocking and dispersed camping are kind of the same. They're very similar. Uh, Boondocking, you just go out on a Bureau of Land Management land, and that's something you need to become familiar with if you're going to be RVing, because there's a lot of places you can camp for free. You know, you can camp for free at Walmart, but don't call it camping. Just tell them you're going to park there overnight. Don't say you're going to camp there overnight. And another at Walmart. And some, you know, you can find out which ones allow it. The easiest way to do it is just call the store and ask somebody, or the store manager, whoever you get on the phone, say, I want to park. I'm going to park at your, is it okay if I park overnight? And they'll tell you up front. Most of the time they say okay. I've never had them say no. No. There are a few places, resort areas, where they won't, but 9 out of 10 will. And so that's a free campsite, and it's okay. It's not bad. And then of course public lands and a Bureau of Land Management and Forest Service land. That's a lot of those have free camping. And but on BLM, Bureau of Land Management land, you know, that you go out there, they call that boondocking, when you're just out in the middle of nowhere by yourself and you find you a remote spot. The only downside for BLM is this: the roads can be tougher than hell. Okay, the roads can be very rough, so you have to have a high clearance vehicle. If you're pulling a travel trailer or you're driving a motorhome, you just have to be cautious and have a really pay attention to the weather, because you can get out there boondocking, and if the weather turns bad, as in it rains, it comes in hard rain, you might be there a while, because those ruts that are in that road, they got there because somebody was trying to get out probably. And also Forest Service property or land camping, they call that dispersed camping in the Forest Service. You just pull off into the forest and camp. That's it. You know, every forest has a little different rule on how far you need to be off the road, or how far you can go off the road. And of course, you can't camp near a water source like a spring or whatever. You should be, there's a limit as to how close you can be to that water source. So again, but the best thing to do there, it's very easy to do. Just call, or if you're in the area, go by the Forest Service office or the Bureau of Land Management office and talk to them. That's okay. And they'll give you maps and all kind of stuff and kind of show you how to find these places, because they're not easy to find. These roads, most of them are unmarked. Some of them are, but some of them aren't. So you may have to get directions or GPS coordinates to get to the right spot. And it's very frustrating sometimes. I have to admit that, because I've done it recently, and it gets kind of, you know, somebody, you know, there is a website you can go to. It's called freecamping.net, and that's a source for finding free camping. But just be careful with that one, because those camping sites are added by people that have, quote, been there, and sometimes it's reliable information. Most of the time it is. Most of the time it's very good, because I've found several campsites using that website. But then again, there's some that are poo-poo. And as far as finding out whether you can use your cell phone or not there, some sites will tell you. Sometimes the Bureau of Land Management will know if the area you're going to has a cell signal. Most of the time they don't, and don't care. The same way with the Forest Service. Most of the time they don't, and they don't care, because they're not going out there. That's you going out there. So, what you can do is as you're driving along, just take your cell phone and watch the power lines and, watch the power bars or whatever you want to call them, and find your campsite and with a cell signal. Verizon has the best coverage in the West. Okay, in fact, Verizon has the best coverage across the whole USA. I currently have an unlimited plan with Verizon. It's $80 a month, including taxes and fees, which I get a 15% discount because I'm ex-military, and that covers that. But what else? But as far as enjoying it, it's not exactly like taking a vacation at home. If you take a vacation at home, you'll be very relaxed and all that because what? You know where everything is. You know where the grocery store is. You know where to get gasoline. If you want to eat out, you know the good places to do that. Now, if you're traveling in an RV of any kind, when you get out there in the real world, you'll look at ratings on Google for this particular restaurant or whatever, and it turns out it's crap. So, also finding there's all kind of apps for finding the cheapest gas, and so you can do that. As far as groceries, there are some nice grocery stores all across. Of course, you get in some of these areas where they just have, the small town, they just have one choice, so you're kind of limited, so you take advantage of it. As far as, and here's another suggestion. Now, a lot of people will fill up their water tanks and use that for drinking water. I never have. Since the beginning of my RVing, I never drank the water from the water tank on the RV. I always took bottled water. Why? Because there's bacteria that can form in that tank, and even though you can put in like a teaspoon or a tablespoon of Clorox bleach into the tank, and that pretty much chlorinates the water, which kills the bacteria. I don't like to do that, and you never know if you're getting it too much or too little. And besides that, when you turn the faucet on, sometimes you can smell that bleach. And of course, if you're just going to use it for, washing dishes, maybe washing your hands, or showering or whatever, and you put in the least amount, maybe a teaspoon of bleach in your 30 gallons is plenty. But my recommendation is to get you a little 5-gallon water can. They make them that's got a little spigot on it, where you can set it on a countertop somewhere or set it somewhere, and you can use it just like a faucet to get your drinking water. And 5 gallons, for one person will last you at least 5 days. Of course, I drink a lot of water. Now, most people may last 7 or 8 days, and I'm never going to be, rarely am I at one spot more than 5 days, and then I'm moving. And then what I do, I go to Walmart or wherever and find one of those filtered water things and fill up my jug and go again. And I usually carry 7 or 8 gallons of water for drinking only. And then when I was pulling my travel trailer, I would keep the tank about half full, so you're not pulling so much weight, because a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds, and if you've got 30 gallons of water, that's 240 pounds. Well, that's a lot of weight, so you can cut that in half, and you still got enough for 10 or 12 showers, so you're good. And anyway, that's all the tips I have. I have more, but that covers the basics. But again, just walk around your camper every day that you're using it, because that will help you avoid some problems. And if you see water dripping underneath or nearby where the hot water heater is, you've probably got a leaky hot water heater, not a hose. And that can be replaced for about $300. But anyway, and that's with the electric gas anyway. But having said all that, I hope some of this helps you guys that are new to RVing, or even RVing, doesn't matter. These tips are applied to anybody. So anyway, guys, thumbs up, carpe diem, adios, bye, bye, bye. USA made when you can. Drink plenty of water. 3 or 4 quarts a day will not hurt you. You'll pee a lot, not a problem. You'll be healthier. Take deep breaths. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Why? Because that relieves stress. And if you do that several times a day, it lowers your blood pressure. And lowering your blood pressure is easier on your heart. That's all I can say, and you'll live longer. All these tips are not going to do you any good at all if you're dead. Okay? And if your health is not good, you're not going to enjoy your camping trip, and you're not going to go. So what's the first step? Keep your health. Anyway, adios amigos. Bye-bye.